And welcome to another edition of South Texas Crossfire. This is Attorney Joe Flores reminding you to join us each and every week right here on KTMB with the Lopez family. Special thanks to Don Humberto Lozano Lopez. He passed away in 2011, but he's honored, he's venerated, he's never forgotten. And my good friend who's here today, our boss, the Ted Turner of South Texas Broadcasting, Carlos Lopez. And we also have a great guest on, the publisher of the South Texas Voice, Tommy Guns Holbein. Welcome, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Joe.
I think we got a lot of issues to cover in this roundtable discussion. First of all, Judge Benavides is going to be joining us later, who got on CNN, the Midwest news desk, and also here locally for being one of the first judge in Nueces County to marry same-sex, two ladies, which has caused quite a stir, caused us to look at each other as Christians, as a nation, and how we are dealing with this issue. Gentlemen, who wants to start first and talk about this issue?
You know, I guess I'll jump right on it, Joe. But I think you have to respect the laws of the nation. The Supreme Court said that this is the law of the land. It's the law of the land. Just like any other decisions that they have made in the past. The three branches of government need to be respected, and if that's what the justices said, not just certain lawyers, as one of the senators here recently said, these are the foundation of the founding fathers, and they're the ones that created these three branches. And if they say this is the law of the land, it is the law of the land, and we have to respect it 100%.
That's Carlos Lopez, the CEO of Lopez Broadcasting here on the station. Tommy, publisher of South Texas Voice, what do you think about what's going on here locally and the impact it has nationwide?
I think that two souls and two hearts are going to date whether you allow them to marry or not.
Boy, here we go.
By passing the law, it's good business for the JP courts and the district clerks, and they're not imposing their lifestyle on me.
So you're saying,
they're not imposing what they do.
Kara Sands, conservative Republican, very nice lady, county clerk, issuing the licenses quickly. But at the same time, the conflict there was Paxton, our Attorney General, saying, take your time, or if you object, you can. Comment?
She took a lot of heat on Facebook immediately.
Such as?
When she said that if my staff choose not to serve the wedding license to same-sex marriages, then I have no objection to that. They lit a fire and created a lot of hatred toward Ms. Sands.
But wait a minute, she went ahead in her defense. She went ahead and gave them out.
Absolutely, because of what Lloyd Neal said, to uphold the law and keep my personal beliefs.
Who is the demigod of the local Republican Party, the patron saint of the Republican Party, said, you got to enforce the law. Even Lloyd Neal said you have to enforce the law.
Exactly.
Joe, when the Supreme Court handled one of the most controversial presidential races in the history of this land, I voted for Al Gore. I voted, for Bush in the past. I voted for Reagan in the past. I voted for Democrats in the past. But I voted for Gore. And when the decision was made that Bush actually won, regardless if there was so many issues that were never answered, the highest court determined that and gave that victory to George W. Bush. We live with it. That's the land.
Oh yeah, I was sucking my thumb in a corner for about 4 weeks after the decision.
But they made that decision, and we have to respect those branches, Joe, and those decisions, and it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And,
Well, okay. On the same token, we have a very religious following here on KTMV. We've got Solid Rock that are very, very closely affiliated with Joel Osteen. T.D. Jakes from Dallas coming in with Oprah on this issue. And I think even the religious right are saying, hate the sin, don't hate the sinner. Leviticus is clear in the Bible about all this, but at the same time, I think that people are saying religion and politics and the law should be separate. Sure. We're hearing some conservatives say render unto Caesar and Romans what, the law and then God's law. So I think that the people in the churches, the people going to mass, the people are having a hard time dealing with this. They're saying now our children we're having to not just talk about the birds and the bees, but we're going to have to talk about the birds and the birds. And so how do you respond to that?
The Pope addressed it, Joe, and said that maybe not specifically this issue, but he says that we have to be able to, be able to accept people and allow them back into church. So I think it's an ongoing situation here that hasn't completely been fully processed, and maybe with time, people will not even think about it anymore. But at this time, it is a very hot topic, and I really don't have the right answer.
I don't either.
And I don't think anybody does either.
I can't help it. The cap is making me go there. Tommy, the Wheaties cap is making me think about Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn, is it? Okay, transgender. We've got Barbara Walters asking somebody, so how do you identify with your genitalia? Whether are you a woman, man? I mean, I'm still trying to clarify it in my mind. What are people actually asking? They're very intrusive, saying if a person feels in their heart that they should have been born a man, or in Bruce Jenner's case, a woman. I think people automatically think that they are gay, and not necessarily so. I find the issue perplexing. Comments? You're never
you're
devoid
safe
of any
eating
words.
Frosted Flakes, and Wheaties isn't going to make you turn into a woman,
Right,
So
yeah.
you're still you're still.
I'm just freaked out by the whole issue with Jenner. I got to be
Bruce
honest.
Jenner was a super Olympian. He had the hearts of Americans in the.
He was
70s.
my hero when I was in third grade.
He was a super jock and a father of four. The
guy's not gay, obviously, right?
Exactly.
But he's trans.
And he still has his male genitalia is still very much attached. So what's going on in his mind, is
Your discretion advised.
Yes.
He's.
Is he confused?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is he confused?
I think that Caitlyn,
Yeah.
is.
But who told Kim Kardashian first? Was it Caitlyn or Bruce Jenner who said, "I'm trans"? No, Kardashian's mother knew it for years and said,
It's a cartoon.
She minimized. She minimized it and said, "Okay, he likes to wear women's clothes," and just left it at that.
Well, I think Joe, at the end of the day, the Kardashians and that whole circus is about making money, and they're famous for not being famous at all. And that's just reality TV today. And they have epitomized the best way to make money on something that they've never accomplished. They've never recorded an album. They've never done a great movie. They've done absolutely nothing to.
Their dad was a
grow.
lawyer.
That was
so.
it.
Mijita, you can make your own reality show.
You can make a
10
reality
years.
show down the road.
The Floreses. Keeping up with the Floreses.
Keeping up with the Floreses. They're famous for not doing anything.
Wow. So
She's famous.
And we're addicted to that. And as a public, we're addicted to their lives, and it I don't know what it does to the moral of this country as well when we pay so much homage to something that means nothing.
So, I don't want to negate the people that are very deeply committed to church and family and to same-sex marriage. It seems like their concerns are just being overrun. I'm hearing this a lot, saying that my opinion on this, or it doesn't matter. And a lot of people say, where on earth did this decision come from? Certainly didn't come from me talking to Todd Hunter. Certainly didn't talking to conservative leaders like Lloyd Neal. The U.S. Supreme Court issued the ruling, and a lot of people are not happy with that on the conservative right. With Obamacare and this, it's a double whammy for them. They're on the ropes, and let's move quickly to Donald Trump, the third hit to the Conservative Party. What happened? They were on top last year. This year, they're taking a shellacking, as Obama says. You got Trump on the immigration issue, Miss Universe, and more people watch Univision and Jorge Ramos than they do the ABC News. And you got Univision and Macy's, other sponsors pulling out. You've got the Council of La Raza, LULAC going against him. Let's start out with the White Buffalo, one of the last white Democrats in South Texas. Tommy, you want to weigh in here about Trump?
The face of arrogance shows itself well, and obviously he doesn't have an advisory committee to tell him not to stick his foot in his mouth, because he is never wrong in his mind. His illness and sickness is, I'm Donald Trump, and I can say and do whatever I want, and it's, regardless of the effect, I don't care. I see a man that has built an empire successfully with the Trump brand name, but he's not a public servant. What he did was wrong in many, many aspects.
But isn't he echoing what a lot of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants think, that Mexicans from over there are taking our jobs? They're coming over and being, fostering terrorism, bringing over the cartel issues, that our borders are being threatened.
That's always been there. It's not a new issue. It's my grandfather and his father were ranchers, all right, in Hebronville, in that area, who settled in the Hebronville area, used to provide work to immigrants that would come over, cowboys, vaqueros, that would work hard and build the fences and do whatever work they could at the ranches to take the money back. Okay, and my grandfather was a good man, and his father, and there was an ethic, there was a relationship there established between the ranchers and the vaqueros that, was understandable. These aren't men that are judged for being immigrants. These are hard workers.
But they're not going home anymore.
And
they're staying.
Well, what they do is, they're still sending their money home, but
But you understand, right? You understand from that point of view.
The NBC fired him. Macy's fired him. Look at the Miss Universe, Univision, Miss Columbia, Miss Universe is.
Well, we
now
got a minute before the break, but
Donald Trump, you're fired.
Right.
Let's hear it from a broadcaster like yourself. What is going on from a broadcaster's view that Donald Trump is now a liability?
Joe, the way he said it with hatred. And that's what struck the chord, I think, more with anybody in the world. It's a huge calculated mistake, I think, in the greater scheme of things. He has awoken he's woken up his Hispanic community throughout the entire nation. The voters will come out in numbers that you have never seen before. There's going to be a huge price that he is going to cost his party because of what he said, because every corner of this nation now knows what he thinks. And those candidates who are running against him for president, the fact that they have not condoned his words, associate now those words together. And as long as they continue to believe that, there's going to be a huge a price to pay in the come November during the general election. A lot of things can happen, but this is going to play a huge role because he has opened up a major wound. Finally, Hispanics from California, Colorado, Arizona, Texas, and the majority of Hispanics in this country are of Mexican descent. Almost 80 to 90% of Hispanics in this country are made up from Mexican descent, people from that were from Mexico, and they're not going to forget that, Joe. If I hurt you, this is the difference. If you're not familiar with our culture, if you hurt me, Joe, I may forgive you, but it's still going to hurt me. And what Donald Trump did to this Hispanic community, to the Mexican American community, will have scars that will always be there. And the fact that they didn't condone what he said is going to live on for a long period of time. My grandparents were Mexican immigrants. She came to this country. She didn't ask for any handouts. They opened up their business. They were good stewards of their community. They provided for work. They did everything they needed to do. And you and I and all of us that are watching us here today have great root stories. We're not what he says that we are. We're good people. None of the cultures are perfect, Joe. But I know that our community contributes to the economy of this great country, and the price that is going to be paid is going to be felt come November.
Well, very well said. When we take, we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we'll be on with Judge Joe Benavides, and we're going to be talking about our youth, but we're also going to be talking about the hot button issue of same-sex marriage, and we're going to continue on with that. Also, don't forget that it's important to register to vote. Regístrese a votar porque su voto es su voz. Gentlemen, thank you once again. Tommy Holbein from South Texas Voice. Advertise with you. It's 980-7748, 980-7748. If you want a political ad, call Tom Holbein today. And Carlos Lopez, the Ted Turner of South Texas Broadcasting, 904-1762. If you want to advertise on the last family-owned station here in South Texas and get involved in the political process, whether you're running or you want your business to have a high-profile shine to it, 904-1762. That's the magic number. Get involved, 904-1762. We're going to be back. Hi, this is attorney and board-certified nurse practitioner Joe Flores on behalf of Vasquez Flores Home Health. Nursing homes have their place, but having care in your own home is very important. Call today for more information. Backed by over 20 years of experience, registered nurse Priscilla Vasquez can answer your questions about home care. Call 881-9922. That's 881-9922 today.
Have you or a loved one suffered a stroke, heart attack, unexplained low blood pressure, or death during dialysis? The FDA has issued warnings and recalled the product GranuFlo and Naturalite used in dialysis. At least one national company failed to warn the public that over 900 people had suffered cardiac arrest or death. A condition called metabolic alkalosis developed, which may have caused the harm. Call the law offices of Joe Flores today. With a combined 25 years of experience in the medical field and as a trial lawyer, Joe Flores can help. Call now.
And welcome to another edition. We're back after a brief break of South Texas Crossfire. You're watching attorney Joe Flores, and our guest in the chair across from me is none other than your friend and mine, and that is Judge Joe Benavides. Welcome. How are you, Judge?
Real good, Mr. Flores.
Well, looking good. I like the tie, and 4th of July. I hate to date my shows, but we are filming this during the Independence Day weekend, and it'll be programmed throughout the year. One of the issues, I think you're in the spotlight, even CNN brought it out, was you were the first judge in Oasis County to marry same-sex marriage. You came out in the Caller Times. What is the reaction, even though you can't comment as far as your policies and stuff, what are the reaction from the voters and from military personnel and the people out in the street?
Well, everyone that I come into contact with, it's been positive, Joe. It's been positive, and I am an elected official, a public servant of my representing my precinct, and I have to uphold the laws of the highest court, the Supreme Court, and that's what I'm doing. Just like I was in the Marine Corps. You know, you're in the Marine Corps. You swore to defend the constitutional rights of our citizens, and that's what I did. And you know, you don't follow it in the Marine Corps, you get court-martialed. And it's one or the other, you know. But the bottom line is that my job as a judge is to uphold the laws of not only the state of Texas, but the highest court, the Supreme Court.
And all politics aside, putting aside your personal opinion, I know you can't comment on that based on the canons, but you know, the issue that we're getting, like from the Attorney General and from some leaders in Texas, are saying you don't have to marry these people. In fact, one judge in Clayburgh County is refusing to do that. Now, what's the issue there as far as you understand it? Judges can refuse to marry same-sex couples, correct?
Correct. But also they put themselves in a position to where they could be sued. I'm not going to put myself in that position. I'm just upholding the laws. And what's sad about it is that if they do get sued, you get defended by taxpayers' money.
Okay, so Ken Paxton, the present Attorney General, kind of in a little hot water because of that and other issues that have surfaced. But the delay in issuing licenses, is there any problem with that going on right now with Ms. Sands and the county clerk's office right now?
Not a problem at all. Everything went smoothly. She did the right thing, and that is, of course, issuing out the license after the Supreme Court ruling. And I congratulate her on that. I thank her for that, and it's going very good.
Well, I appreciate you addressing that issue, nip it in the bud. Let's delve a little bit now into our children. We've got a long summer that we're going through right now. And the kids, I know you've got a lawn program, and let's just talk about the reaction. Why were these kids doing lawns for, like, the American Legion and for seniors? The lawn program, you're bringing it back, you're reviving it, you're giving it CPR, if you will. So what is this program about, lawns and the children getting involved in this?
Well, I do believe that, a good leader, a great leader, is one that's out there showing the kids that that no one's above the law. And if you don't go to school, the state says you have to be in school. And the parents, I think, do understand that, but there's so many difficulties within the family environment. But what I use, one of my things about community service is that I take the kids out there, and I did revise the mowing lawns for seniors and nonprofit organizations. So this past weekend, had a group of about 10, 12 kids that couldn't find areas they could do community service. So we mowed the American Legion lot.
Probably the first hard work they've ever done in their life.
Oh yes, but they know now how to turn on the lawnmower. They know how to use the weed eater.
No
use all
excuses.
No excuses. And not only do we go out there and do the community service and mow the lawns, I give them a 15 to 30 minute pep talk on staying in school, because it was a Saturday. It was a very hot Saturday, and but they did good. The kids understood where I was coming from, and we completed the task.
Not to be critical of other judges, but you are probably the lone wolf right now as far as your community involvement and the extent of it, going out there on a Saturday. But this is not new. You and your predecessor, former judge, now county commissioner, Joey Gonzalez, I remember that we went out there and cleaned up a cemetery. Saw you guys doing endless weekends of lawns, a decade of going out on weekends and doing senior lawns and nonprofit lawns and all that. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
That was a program that Commissioner Gonzalez started, the former Justice of the Peace of this precinct. And I do believe in it, and it's really good. It ingrains a lot into the kids. Not only that, it gives them, an opportunity to see that, what, they can do something better, probably at a summer job, vice doing community service on the weekends or during their summertime, instead of, out on vacation or whatever. But, they put themselves in that predicament. And I think they do understand that school is important, and that's what I try to strive to impact the parents about, kids being in school. I use many different programs now. Throughout the whole school year, I give my anti-bullying message out to the schools. I go to about 5 schools a week throughout the school year, and I continue to push out my anti-bullying message, my anti-sex message, my anti-drug message, and my anti-truancy message. So it's kind of like just constantly just being out there in the school environment and letting these kids and these parents know that it's important that we try to, let our children know the awareness of what's going on out there, like the drugs, anti-drug message. I push so much on trying to, the awareness of synthetic marijuana. That's a big one right now, and there's not much but knowledge and educating our kids about the harms of synthetic marijuana.
You're working closely with law enforcement without giving away any identification or strategies or anything. There is a united or concerted effort with law enforcement that you're meeting with from the federal law enforcement all the way down to local law enforcement. There's a concerted effort to rid of gangs, of combat drugs and things. And what's been your experience getting involved in that with law enforcement and educating yourself on that?
Yes, the task force against drugs and violence and gangs. That's I go once a month. It's a contained meeting with the federal law enforcement all the way down to CCPD, the Sheriff's Department, and it's very educational. I now understand very clearly the types of gangs, the gang signs, who's around our community. I'm trying to now see if we can get a class that's less unclassified to our teachers, our principals, administrators of CCIC, Toloso Midway High School, Cal Allen, and West Oso. Those are the people that need to know exactly what's going on around in their community, which is in my precinct, so that they'll be aware that, let the kids know that, we do have issues here with gangs and drugs.
Well, right now, law enforcement is getting a bad rap, a lot of it unjustified, and I think it'd be an excellent idea to have law enforcement, you have Coffee with a Cop, all those that, in our programs devoted and dedicated to Chief Simpson, who passed on. And I know that in his heart he tried to make things a better place here in Corpus Christi, make things better. So we honor him and grieve for his family and our condolences. But I think it's an excellent idea if you have the policemen come out to the schools as well, and law enforcement. A lot of these guys that are in the federal law enforcement, you would not even tell. They just blend into the into the scenery there, and then have beards and they, T-shirts and things. But they're there to protect us just as well as a uniformed policeman. So thank you for that. We got a couple of minutes left, but I want to talk about the reaction of the parents and the reaction of the children with all your visits to the schools. What sort of reaction are you getting from them?
Well, I get a very positive reaction. Also a lot of frustration with all sorts of systems that we have that are within the school system, the police department, the justice courts, frustrations on, reaching out for help. And I think the only thing that I have to reach out to these parents is my partnership with the Texas Challenge Academy, because they reach out, parents reach out, and they want help, and I try to do the best that I can to reach out. CCPD, they try to reach out as much as they can. The school systems try to reach out as much as they can, but there's, the circumstances that, beyond our capabilities that that I myself go above and beyond trying to reach out to these parents. And you have to be very consistent and try to bring in organizations exterior from the justice courts, because the way I look at it is that the justice courts is like a first line of defense. I don't want to see these young kids in jail. I don't want them dropping out of high school. I just had a young lady, 17 years old, that I was trying to mentor to put her in the right road. She was just apprehended last week, and it was just a sad picture, and she's 17 years old. She's an adult, and apparently she continued on the road that she was going. And now that, sad for the parents and the guardians that were trying to help her. But things like that happen, and parents are frustrated just, for reaching out for help. And I just try to do the best that I can. And I am very blessed to know that I partnered up with the Texas Challenge Academy. Colonel Petit from the National Guard and all his staff, they cater to us. And it's just something that we could provide to the parents with their kids.
Now, it's an alternative to, it's not mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory, it's volunteer. It's not a boot camp. It's a training and education academy. And it's really amazing educational institution that it's like the last chance for them to receive their high school diploma and or their GED certificate. And we just graduated on June the 20th, 13 kids from TCA, students from TCA, and in July 17th, I send my 5th group out to Sheffield, and we have TCA has a new academy out at Eagle Lake, which is between Corpus Christi and Houston, because I have to travel to visit my students from Nueces County, Corpus Christi here, all the way to Sheffield, which is about a 6-7 hour drive. And I do that once a month to make sure the kids are intact and doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they do outstanding.
Well, it's an election year. We have polarized a lot of things. A lot of people may come out and vote now with the Donald Trump issue that came out, remarks that he made, and I think Latinos took it to heart, but I think that you're looking for a broad base of support from parents, from law enforcement. You have to run for office as well. If somebody asks, why should we give you another 4 years? What would be your response? If you're reapplying for the job of Justice of the Peace, why should we give you another 4 years?
Well, first of all, diligence, consistency. The justice courts had a backlog of many, many cases. We're current. The office is a people's courtroom. It's always been like it should have been that way. And it is right now a people's courtroom. That courtroom is open from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. During lunchtime, it's open. We do a rotation basis. So no matter what, once you go to that window, that courtroom is open to the public, to my constituents. And it's mandatory. We've done it from day one when I got elected into office. The people, the constituents, the citizens of my precinct have total access to that courtroom. And I don't give legal advice. I am not an attorney. But as I've said before, it's a people's courtroom. It's one that citizens go up and ask for, submitting a petition or issues with kids and stuff like that. So it's a...
You like what you do?
I love what I do. We uphold the law to the best of our abilities. And I think, and no, I don't even think, I know that I have done many things in that courtroom and made change for the betterment of my precinct.
Well, it's Judge Joe Benavides. You got it. He can be reached 24/7. We're going to take a brief break. We're going to come back. We're going to reach out to his esteemed colleague, judge of County Court at Law number 5, who's also trying to save our youth and trying to protect them and reunite families together in an ethical way, and one that we need to learn a lot more about this court, County Court at Law number 5, when we come back. Judge Tim McCoy.
Have you been arrested or are potentially facing criminal charges? You need a trial attorney who is well-versed in the courtroom. Joe Flores has handled hundreds of criminal cases and many of them to trial. Joe Flores can provide you with competent representation to protect your constitutional rights in state and federal court. Joe Flores can help if you have been arrested or facing criminal charges. The law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all.
Hi, this is attorney and board-certified nurse practitioner Joe Flores on behalf of Vasquez Flores Home Health. Nursing homes have their place, but having care in your own home is very important. Call today for more information. Backed by over 20 years of experience, registered nurse Priscilla Vasquez can answer your questions about home care. Call 881-9922. That's 881-9922 today.
Call River City Hospice for your loved one's care today. River City Hospice is a compassionate, patient-centered healthcare provider with a unique approach to medical care and support for people at the end of life and their families. River City Hospice focuses on maintaining dignity, increasing quality of life, and providing comfort and reducing pain due to illness. Hospice care allows your loved one to be treated with dignity and respect and gives them the right to choose. Call 882-5900 today. Hope, dignity, and love. It's got to be River City Hospice. Have you or a loved one suffered a stroke, heart attack, unexplained low blood pressure, or death during dialysis? The FDA has issued warnings and recalled the product GranuFlo and Naturalite used in dialysis. At least one national company failed to warn the public that over 900 people had suffered cardiac arrest or death. A condition called metabolic alkalosis developed, which may have caused the harm. Call the law offices of Joe Flores today. With a combined 25 years of experience in the medical field and as a trial lawyer, Joe Flores can help. Call now.
And we're back after a brief break. You're watching South Texas Crossfire with attorney Joe Flores right here on KTMB, the Lopez family. Special thanks to Don Alberto Lozano Lopez. And I want to take a break for our sponsors, Vasquez Flores Home Health 881-9922. Want to start an exciting career in healthcare? 881-9922. And also, if you need somebody to help your loved one in the home, 881-9922. And River City Hospice, 882-5900. That's 882-5900 Hospice. It's not what you think. Find out. So thanks to our sponsors. All right, we're back, and we want to thank Judge Joe Benavides. We want to thank another judge who's coming on, who has a tremendously hard job. It's not easy. And we're talking about the Juvenile Justice Center judge, and that's none other than Timothy McCoy. Judge Tim McCoy, ladies and gentlemen, for County Court at Law Number 5, protecting our youth and our families here in our community. Welcome, Judge. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
The last time that we met on this show, you were running for office. Snapshot later, several months, and how has it been your first 180 days plus there in County Court at Law Number 5?
Been great. I jumped right in. The staff has been great. We didn't skip a beat. We got caught up on all the cases. The dockets are running smooth. As you know, about, I'd say 80% of the docket over there is CPS, and that was kind of, my thing, and one of the reasons why I wanted to run for that office is the interest that I had in those types of cases, and I haven't had any issues, and everything's been going great.
Child Protective Services, they get a bad rap sometimes that they are too intrusive on the welfare of a child. But what is the reality of the situation on Child Protective Services and what they do and how you interact with them?
Well, the way I treat Child Protective Services in my court is the same way I treat the parents that show up in my court, which is they're a party to a lawsuit. They have the same footing as just like the parents have the same footing. I always listen to both sides of the story and do what's best for the children. Obviously, that's every ruling I make with regards to a Child Protective Services case has to be done in the best interest of the children.
Correct.
Right. So, that's the way I look at Child Protective Services. My goal when I get a case on the docket at County Court 5, and it's not just my goal, it's the way the law is written, and I'm there to uphold the law, is to reunify a family. So if we remove a child through CPS, the ultimate goal in that case is to get that child back to the family as soon as possible.
Looking at that, a lot of people have said now, CPS, the family, CASA is the other. A lot of people want to know about the role and how they can get involved as a volunteer. What is CASA?
CASA is Court-Appointed Special Advocates, and it's a very important program at County Court 5, and I've said this time and time again. CASA is a statutory entity that they're all volunteers, and they can be appointed as a party to the same lawsuit as a guardian of the child. When a child is removed from their family through a child protective, through CPS, or if I ultimately make the decision whether to remove the child or not, they're automatically appointed a lawyer to advocate for them. Now, in some instances, that lawyer is put in a situation where they have to advocate for what their client wants, and it may not be what everybody thinks is in the best interest of the child, and that's when CASA can come in and be a real asset, and that they argue and they advocate for what's best for the child. For example, you may have a 10 or an 11-year-old that wants to go home, and that's very natural. A child always wants to be with their family or be with their parents, but the home environment may not be the best environment for them at that point. There may be to be frank, the home might be a crack house. I mean, that's the type of cases that you see come through this court. And in those cases, CASA can come through and advocate for what's best for the child. Now, CASA also, many times the attorneys and CASA and everybody's on the same page. CASA volunteers are great because they spend a lot of time with the children. They interact with the child, the families, and their goal, like the law, is to reunify that family. So they work with everybody to try to get that done as soon as possible.
Your predecessor and somebody that was held in such high self-esteem, Carl Lewis, that we both appeared in front of as lawyers. I can't help but think that that job affected his health, his stress. How hard has it been transitioning from being a lawyer and an advocate, either for parents or children, and now sitting up on that bench? How hard is it to make those decisions when you do have to remove a child or terminate a parent's rights?
It's very hard, and I take every decision I make in that court very serious. And this is another reason why I'll go back to CASA, for example, is I need to get as much information in front of me as possible, because I'll get a case in there and I'll see a snapshot. Let's say we're doing a permanency hearing, or these are this is vocabulary as a lawyer, but when a case is when a child is removed, you have statutory hearings that you have to keep up with the status of that case. Well, some of these hearings may last 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour, and that snapshot of information I have to take and digest and make a decision that is going to affect this family and this child for the rest of their life. And I take that very seriously, and it can be tough, it can be trying. I may look at a trial and it may be a week-long trial, and that's 1 week in the life of an entire child that I have to look at and gather as much information to make a decision that's going to affect that child, and it can be tough.
Switching over to the juvenile justice system, because it's not just potential cases of endangerment of children. Let's switch over to the dual role you have, which is there is a lot of controversy about incarcerating children and I have seen it firsthand. I know that you're open to the public to come see the proceedings, but there are children that are in shackles that come and have to be because they're either a danger or they're accused of doing something. Their parents can't control them. They're alleged to have committed some crimes. What's your view on, and what sort of alternatives to incarceration are you looking at in your court?
Well, first of all, it's been proven that locking up kids doesn't work. It doesn't. And in the 1990s was the height of locking kids up. And that was the heyday of our juvenile justice system, where it was famous for the zero tolerance policies, and everybody basically wanted to have a firm hand, lock these kids up, throw away the key. And between the mid 90s and 2006 or so, there was close to 5,000 kids locked up in facilities in the state of Texas. And if you recall, around 2006, that's when some scandal hit. Some terrible abuses came out as to what was happening to children in these facilities. They were being abused. There was sexual abuse, physical abuse. And so the legislature took it, obviously recognized the problem, and it was a bipartisan effort, and they went to reform that system. And what they did was they began taking kids out of these incarcerations, the former TYC, and putting them back in the community and closing those facilities. And the money that they saved in closing those facilities, they put back into the communities and instituted more community-based programs for the children. And it worked. They put more accountability. They lowered the staff to child ratios, all of those things, like I say, in order to stop that centralized incarceration system. And as a result of taking the children out of those lockdown facilities and putting them back in the community and investing that money in the communities, crime dropped. Juvenile crime dropped by 1/3. Violent crime has dropped. And Texas has actually become a model as to how to effectively run a juvenile justice system. So it's worked. We have a number of programs that we deal with now in probation. We have probation programs that focus on mental health, drug rehabilitation, programs that take the children where we take children and show them the opportunities that they have. rather than just, like I say, forgetting about them, locking them up, throwing away the key.
Well, I know you were talking with Judge Joe Benavides off camera, and before you came on the interview, and I heard something in the background about methamphetamine. One of the cruelest drugs, strongest drugs in our society. Are you seeing that in your courtroom? Children that are using methamphetamine?
Absolutely. Every day. And it's a sad situation, but we see it. One of the most, the up and comer now is synthetic marijuana. Honestly, and I'm sure you've dealt with these same issues as a lawyer, a practicing lawyer. I've seen the effects that drugs have had on people for years. I've never seen anything like synthetic marijuana. It's the way it affects these children, the way you see it in their eyes. It's almost, honestly, it's like a cross between methamphetamine and paint. I mean, it's the damage that it's doing, and it's hard to test for right now. And we are now getting up-to-date drug tests where we can test for synthetic marijuana. But that's a tough one. That's going to be a serious problem in the future.
I know the dealers had been changing one little molecule, one something to stay ahead of legislation, and they're, like in New Zealand, they're printing out MDMA type sort of stuff, things that are like speed. They're changing around the chemical structure and just making man-made, and then shipping it to China, and China's making it in bulk enough to get a whole city high. Right. And then it won't even test on the drugs. Mm-hmm. What's the frustration that CCPD, the school police, CCISD's police, what sort of frustration are they having with the drug problem in this? Because this is a major issue that people are saying, oh, synthetic marijuana, it's just like marijuana but man-made.
Well, right, it's not. I can tell you right now, it's not like marijuana. I've seen the effects that marijuana has on people, and marijuana is a dangerous drug, and it's not a drug that youth need to be using. But this is nothing like marijuana. It's like I said, I've never seen anything like it. And if we have a kid under supervision in our juvenile, in our juvenile justice system, we keep track of them, especially if they do have drug issues. We do random drug tests to make sure that their treatment is working. And when they have violations of their probation, then we can act on those violations and figure out what kind of help they need. Well, we'll have kids come in that it's obvious that they're on a substance, that they're inebriated, and we test them and we can't, and it doesn't come out. The test doesn't come out positive.
Wow.
So we can't do any. As you know, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and you can't prove up a violation. So what do you do?
Describe a typical day. You go in there, your staff, who are the people that make it happen in your courtroom?
Oh, my court manager is great. Bernice Beam, I'm sure you know her. She used to be the court reporter in that court.
Charming.
Yes, very. And she stepped in as court manager when I first took office, and I can tell you this, I couldn't do it without her. This was her first job as a court manager, and it's like she'd been doing it for 20 years. I mean, she takes care of me. Our bailiff is great. Our court reporter's great. Alva, who does our guardianship work, is great. Couldn't do my job without her.
Awesome.
Everybody gets along, and it's a tough. This is the toughest court in the county.
Bar
no question
none.
about it.
No question.
I have no problem saying that and challenging anybody to prove it different.
I don't think people
and,
are running to say, you know what, gosh, I just want to take Judge McCoy's job away, because it's a tough job.
Well, and if I didn't have such a great staff, it would make it so much harder.
Well, and I want to thank Becky and all the other probation officers too. They have a tough job, and they're right there in there. Without the formation of the Juvenile Justice Center, a lot of these children would be lost. So we've got about 30 seconds left. I know that politics rears its ugly head. You're not going to be running for a long, long time. But if you were reapplying for the job today, what would you tell the voter? Why would they keep you in? Do you like what you do?
I love what I do. I'm beginning to take a lot of these cases to heart. You know, I look at every single case that I get in front of my court. I take personal interest in to make sure that things are done right on that case. And you know, I still think I'm the man for the job. I know I'm the man for the job, and I will continue to be.
All right, Tim McCoy, and hope you come back on when school starts. We're going to need for you to educate the parents on what's important too, and bring Judge Joe Benavides on, who is working in concert with you, trying to keep these kids in school and out of trouble. And so, Judge Tim McCoy, County Court at Law number 5, your judge, Nueces County. Thanks for coming on, Judge. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Anytime.
All right, and this concludes our show. Judge Tim McCoy, County Court at Law number 5. Thanks to Judge Joe Benavides, Precinct 1, Place 1, and also to none other, love him, hate him, but never ignore him, Tommy Guns Holbein, South Texas voice, and our Carlos Lopez, who came on and talked about all this stuff. So you could catch this on YouTube, friend us on Facebook, South Texas Crossfire, and watch us each and every night at 6 p.m. on KTMV Channel 6, el canal que cuenta aquí en el sur de Texas. And so don't forget, register to vote too. And if you like or hate Donald Trump, register because of that. So we love you guys. Thank you, and God bless.